Hey guys, it's Heidi. Today we are going to talk and make French press coffee. Grab a cup, stay tuned. Well, hello, it's Heidi Doulabon, and today we're talking and making French press coffee. We're going to learn how to make the perfect cup of French press coffee and a little origin story. So let's just dive in. Okay, French press coffee, like any coffee, comes from the two types of coffee beans. They're either Arabica or Robusta. Today I have some lovely Arabica beans that I have ground for you, and it's very important with a French press to grind them to a coarse to medium coarse grind. I hope that you can see this. It's somewhat granular. So this is medium coarse grind, very important. Okay, so what is it about a French press? Well, we have the classic here, the glass beaker with the metal plunger with the metal mesh filter. Okay, so because of this filter, it's extremely important that we get the grind correct, because if it's too fine, you're just going to clog up this filter. So it's very important, coarse to medium coarse grind. Okay, I have chosen a dark roast. I happen to prefer a dark roast for French press coffee. You do what you would like. Okay, so what do we do? So we know we have our beautiful, mine happens to be Arabica, dark roast, coarse to medium coarse grind. Okay, how much coffee do you ask? Well, here is a very simple formula. Now, this can vary depending on your taste, of course, but here is just a good general ratio for you. For every 1 cup of water, 2 tablespoons of coffee. So it's 2 tablespoons of coffee to 1 cup of water. And if you do that, try that, and then you can tweak it from there depending on your personal taste. Okay, so we have the coffee, we know how much coffee, and now let's talk about the water. Okay, so I am going to use 2 cups of water today, and I have used filtered water. I highly recommend using filtered water for your coffee if it's possible. It just tastes better. It just tastes better. And the temperature is important. You do not want fully boiling water. It will give your coffee a bitter taste. So you want your water to be just under boiling, about 90 degrees Celsius or 200 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, so what will we do now? Okay, so we're ready. I happen to have an electric kettle that I can just hit 200 degrees and it's perfect. If you do not, boil some water, wait a little less than a minute, and it will be the exact right temperature. So no worries, we've got this. Okay, so now let's start making our coffee. Okay, so what I have measured out 4 tablespoons of coffee here, and I have my glass beaker. So what I like to do is I like to put in just a little bit of the water, just a little bit, and then I drop in my coffee, and I put just a little tiny bit more, maybe up to 20% of the water that's going to be in there. And I just let it bloom for just a few seconds. And blooming is when any gases that are still left in the coffee, it's extracted, and it gives it such an extra wonderful flavor. And that's why you will see, if you can see, all these little, I don't know if you can see, lots of bubbles. That's the gas escaping. Okay, so I just wait just a few seconds, let it bloom, if you will, and then I'm going to pour in the rest of the water. If you can, just don't be too aggressive. It's gentle, and just sort of in a circular way, I'm pouring the rest of the water in. So I have my 2 cups in, which I already measured. And now take a wooden or a plastic rubber spoon, give it a good stir. No metal spoons, please. Give it a nice stir. We want to make sure everything is all stirred up. And now we are going to place on our metal plunger. Don't plunge yet. Okay, we're going to get it on properly. And now we're going to set a timer for 4 minutes. And that's all it's going to take, 4 minutes. So while I've got you for 4 minutes, let me just tell you a story. Where did this come from? Okay, well, here, the legend has it that there was this lovely older gentleman in Provence, in the south of France. And every day he would take a stroll through the woods, and he would take a little stool with him, and he would take things to make coffee along the way, because halfway along he'd love to make a little cup of coffee. So he would sit on his stool, he'd build a little fire, and he would put on some coffee grinds into a pot and then water, and he would boil this. And he'd have a nice cup of coffee in midway during his little walk. Well, one day this Frenchman, he's doing his usual routine, and he puts the water on to boil, and he says, oh my gosh, the water's boiling. I forgot to add the coffee grinds. Oh, this is going to be a disaster. But he thinks, you know what? Let's just try it anyway. So he takes his coffee grinds and he just throws it into the boiling water. And guess what? The grinds just float on the top. They don't sink. He's thinking, I've ruined this coffee, darn it. And about that time, walked by someone. He happened to be an Italian salesman. And this Italian salesman stopped and he said, this smells great. Are you making coffee? And the Frenchman said, yes, I am, but I forgot to put the grinds in first, and now the coffee grinds are floating on the top. And the Italian salesperson said, no worries, I happen to sell screens, a fine mesh screen, just happen to have one. Let me get one out. So he got one out, and they put it over the top of this, the vessel that was the water was boiling in this bowl over the open fire, and they took some sticks and they pushed this fine mesh screen down over the coffee grinds, and the water came through, the grinds went down, a French press, and voila, they had a great cup of coffee. Legend has it that the two of them went into business and became fabulously wealthy with a very early French press coffee. But fast forward, in the mid-1800s, a Frenchman did the first design for what we think of as a French press coffee. However, with his plunger, he couldn't quite get an exact seal. So some of the grinds would come up, and you know how awful that is to have a cup of coffee with grinds in your tea. So he didn't quite get it perfected in the 1852, I think, mid-1850s. So it was about like that. Many designs came and went until about 70 years later, in the 1920s, two Italians came up with a perfected idea of this French press with a plunger. And so that's pretty cool. And then about, 30 years later, in 1958, a Swiss person, a Swiss inventor, he really perfected pretty much what we see today as this French press. And so it's kind of a cool story. So the French, it's Italians, it's Swiss, and this was known for a long time as a chambord. And a lot of people in France still say a chambord, and they mean what we are looking at here. But a Danish-Swiss company called Bodum bought that company. So now it's the Bodum Chambord or French press. So it's really multinational, and that's why I love coffee, because I think coffee can help us appreciate and understand all these different cultural differences and appreciate all these beautiful things about all these cultures that come together. Talk about timing. In a cup of coffee. Okay, so it's been 4 minutes. That's all you need. And now we plunge. But here's the thing about the plunging. Don't just slam it down. No, take your time. This is about relaxing and enjoying life for just a moment. I know you're busy, so relish this moment. Be very slow. You don't want to be very, this is gentle. This is gentle. So just gently push down the plunger. If you're having trouble pushing, that means your grinds are not ground properly. They're probably too fine. Okay, keep grinding, keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing. Aha! voila. Now, some people like to leave it here and to steep a little further. I think this is just great for me. So what do you say? Let's just pour ourselves a cup. I wish you were here. I'd pour one for you. So let's just pour one, and we are going to enjoy a beautiful cup of French press coffee. So here's to you, santé. Thank you so much for watching. Like the video, please subscribe to the channel. As I always say, please be kind and drop me a comment. Thank you.